I sat at my parents' dining table, fork frozen halfway to my mouth, as my mother casually announced that my younger sister Brooke needed a place to stay and would be moving into my apartment downtown. Not asking, telling. My father nodded in agreement, cutting his steak like the decision was already final. Brooke smirked across the table, twirling her wine glass. My girlfriend Sarah squeezed my hand under the table, but I said nothing. I just smiled, nodded, and continued eating. They had no idea what I was already planning. The drive home felt longer than usual. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, her jaw clenched, fingers drumming against her thigh. I could feel the anger radiating off her in waves. "I cannot believe them," she finally said, her voice tight. "They just decided. Like your apartment is theirs to give away. Like you don't even exist except as a resource for Brooke." I kept my eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel. The streetlights cast moving shadows across the dashboard as we wound through the residential neighborhoods toward downtown. "It's not new," I said quietly. "Leif, that doesn't make it okay." "I know." Sarah turned to face me fully. "So what are you going to do? You're not actually letting her move in, right? Please tell me you're not just going to roll over on this." I glanced at her, then back at the road. A small smile played at the corner of my mouth. "I have a plan." "A plan? Trust me." We pulled into the parking garage of my building, my apartment, the one-bedroom loft I'd saved for 3 years to afford the down payment on. The place I'd furnished piece by piece, chosen every detail of, the first real space that was entirely mine. And my parents thought they could just hand it over to Brooke like it was a spare bedroom in their house. As we rode the elevator up to the 8th floor, Sarah studied my face. "You're being too calm about this. What's going on in that head of yours?" I waited until we were inside, door locked, before I told her everything. "When I was 16, I started. Settling onto the couch, I saved up for 8 months working at the grocery store to buy a used Honda Civic. Remember I told you about that? Yeah. What I didn't tell you was what happened 3 months after I bought it. Brooke turned 15 and decided she wanted a car too. But she didn't want to work for one. She threw tantrums for weeks. So, my parents took my car and gave it to her. Just like that. Told me I was being selfish, that family shares, that I could bike to school." Sarah's mouth fell open. "That's insane." "When I applied to colleges, I got into a decent state school. Nothing fancy, but good. My parents told me they'd saved education money for both of us. Then Brooke decided she wanted to go to Whitman College, this private liberal arts school that cost $45,000 a year. My parents spent my entire college fund on her first year there. I ended up working 3 jobs and taking out $50,000 in loans. Leif. She dropped out after sophomore year because she was bored. Never finished. $50,000 of my education money gone, so she could party at an expensive school and quit. I stood up, started pacing. The memories were flooding back now, each one sharp and clear. 3 years ago, she asked to borrow $5,000. Said she needed it for a business opportunity, that she'd pay me back in 3 months. I never saw a dime. When I asked about it, my mother told me to stop being petty about money with family. "And the jewelry," Sarah said softly. She knew this story. "Right. Grandma Dorothy left me her mother's wedding ring and a set of cufflinks that belonged to my grandfather, specifically to me, named in the will. Brooke threw a fit at the funeral, said it wasn't fair that I got everything. My parents made me give her the ring. Made me. At my grandmother's funeral. Said we needed to share family heirlooms equally, even though Grandma's will was crystal clear." Sarah moved closer, took my hand. "Your family has been steamrolling you your entire life." "The responsible one," I said bitterly. "That's what they call me. Leif doesn't need help. Leif has his life together. Leif can handle anything." Meanwhile, Brooke is still finding herself at 25 years old. Never held a job longer than 3 months. Lives rent-free in my parents' basement. And somehow, I'm the bad guy if I don't want to hand over my apartment. "So what's the plan?" Sarah asked again. I smiled then. A real smile. "My lease is ending in 8 days. "What?" "Marcus. Remember him? My friend from college. The one I helped set up his IT consulting business 5 years ago. The one who owes you big time. That's the one. He owns a rental property across town. Nothing fancy. but nice. 2 bedrooms. I signed the lease last week. You and I are moving in together. Sarah's eyes went wide. We are? I was going to surprise you next weekend. But then this dinner happened, and I realized it's actually perfect timing. I don't understand. If we're moving out, why didn't you just tell your parents that at dinner? This was the good part. I sat back down, pulled out my phone, and showed Sarah the text conversation with Marcus from earlier that week. Marcus has a cousin, Derek. Good guy, had some trouble years ago, did time for drug possession. Non-violent, fully rehabilitated, been clean for 7 years. He got released 2 weeks ago and he's trying to rebuild his life. Has a construction job lined up but needs a place to stay while he saves up first and last month's rent somewhere. Sarah read the texts, her expression shifting from confusion to understanding to delighted disbelief. You're going to sublet to Derek for your last week. Exactly. And when Brooke shows up with your parents and all her stuff, Derek will answer the door, with a legal lease agreement in hand, on my property that I own and have every right to sublet. Leif. Oh my God. I won't answer their calls. I'll be unreachable. Moved out. New address they don't know. By the time they figure out how to find me, Brooke will have been turned away by a stranger in my apartment, and the whole thing will be done. Sarah started laughing. Not a polite laugh. A real, genuine, gasping laugh. It's petty. Extremely. It's perfect. I thought so. When do we start packing? We spent the rest of the evening wrapping dishes in newspaper, folding clothes into boxes, taking pictures off walls. My apartment slowly transformed into a collection of cardboard and bubble wrap. With each item I packed, I felt lighter. This place had been my pride and joy, proof that I could make it on my own. But the new apartment with Sarah? That was going to be our fresh start. Over the next week, we moved everything systematically. Sarah took time off work to help. We rented a truck, made 3 trips, set up the new place room by room. It was smaller than my loft, but it was ours. We painted the bedroom a soft blue. We hung shelves in the kitchen. We made it home. On the final day of my lease, Derek arrived. He was early 30s, covered in faded tattoos, with careful eyes that had seen too much. We shook hands in the empty loft. I really appreciate this, man, Derek said, looking around the space. Marcus told me what you're doing, giving me a shot here. Not many people would. Everyone deserves a chance to get back on their feet, I said. The lease runs through the end of this week. After that, Marcus will help you find something more permanent. I got it. And about your family situation, Marcus explained. If people show up, I just tell them I'm the tenant. Show them the paperwork. Don't engage beyond that. Exactly. Simple. Clean. They have no claim to this place, and you have every right to be here. I handed him the keys, a copy of the sublease agreement Marcus had drawn up, and my old coffee maker I'd forgotten to pack. Good luck, Derek. With everything. You too, Leif. I left my apartment for the last time, got in my car, and drove to the new place where Sarah was waiting with Thai takeout and a bottle of wine. We ate sitting on the floor since our furniture wasn't fully arranged yet. My phone sat on the counter, volume on, waiting. The calls started at 6:15 the next evening. I was at dinner with Sarah at a new Italian place we'd been wanting to try. My phone buzzed. Mom. I declined the call. It buzzed again immediately. Dad. Declined. Then Brooke. Declined. Then the voicemails started rolling in. My mother's voice was shrill, hysterical. Leif. What have you done? There's a criminal in your apartment. Your sister is traumatized. Call me back right now. My father was cold, controlled. Son, I don't know what game you think you're playing, but this has gone too far. We're exploring legal options. You need to fix this immediately. Brooke didn't leave a voicemail. She just kept calling. Sarah watched me across the table, twirling pasta on her fork. How do you feel? Good, I said. And I meant it. Really good. But that feeling lasted approximately 40 more minutes. My phone rang again at 7:50. Marcus. I answered. Leif. We have a serious problem. My stomach dropped at the tone of his voice. Marcus didn't panic. Ever. He was the guy who stayed calm when his servers crashed during a major client presentation. Hearing stress in his voice now sent ice through my veins. What happened? Your sister called the cops on Derek. She what? Sarah put down her fork, eyes locked on my face. She showed up with your parents. Derek answered the door like you said, showed them the lease, explained the situation. Your sister lost it. Started screaming about squatters and dangerous criminals and how her brother owned the apartment. Derek stayed calm, just kept showing the paperwork. But then she called 911, said there was a violent ex-con who'd broken into her brother's apartment and was threatening her. Oh God. Derek panicked, Leif. When the cops showed up, he panicked. He's got PTSD from prison, and seeing uniforms just flipped some switch. He didn't do anything violent, didn't resist, but he was shaking, sweating, couldn't speak clearly. They detained him, thought he was on something. Is he okay? Where is he? I just picked him up from the station. Took 3 hours to sort out. I had to bring every piece of paperwork, proof of ownership, the sublease, everything. He was humiliated, Leif. Neighbors came out in the hallway, watched him get questioned by police. This was supposed to be his fresh start. I closed my eyes. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be awkward, maybe uncomfortable, but ultimately harmless. A lesson, not trauma. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I never thought. I know you didn't. But here's the bigger problem. The building management company is threatening to blacklist both of us. What? They own 15 properties in this city. Big operation. The property manager, Gary Sullivan, is apparently friends with your dad. Your father called him tonight, spun some story about you being an irresponsible owner and Derek being dangerous. They're talking about banning us from ever renting in any of their buildings again because of the disturbance. The restaurant suddenly felt too hot, too bright. Sarah reached across the table, grabbed my hand. That can't be legal, I said. Maybe not, but it's their policy. They have a clause about tenants who cause disturbances or damage the property's reputation. The police presence, the scene in the hallway, they're calling it a violation. I own that apartment. I have the right to sublet. I know, man. And we'll fight it if we have to. But my business? A lot of my clients are in those buildings. If I get blacklisted, it could seriously hurt my contracts. And Derek, he was just starting to believe things could be normal again. This set him back. I threw cash on the table, more than enough to cover dinner and tip. Sarah and I were out the door in seconds, driving back toward my old building. I needed to see Derek, apologize face to face. This was my fault. My petty revenge plan that hurt innocent people. We found Marcus and Derek in the parking garage. Derek sat on the curb, head in his hands. He looked up when we approached, and I saw the defeat in his eyes. That particular emptiness that comes from being treated like you're less than human. Derek, I am so sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen like this. He stood up slowly. It's not your fault, Leif. Your family. There's something else. It is my fault. I knew they'd be angry, but I didn't think they'd call the cops. I didn't think it through. Marcus crossed his arms. He was angry. Not yelling angry, but the quiet, disappointed kind that's somehow worse. We need to talk about this property management situation, Marcus said. I've got a meeting with them tomorrow morning. I'm going to try to smooth it over, but Leif, your dad has serious pull with these people. He's been doing business with Sullivan for years, apparently. I didn't know that. Well, now we all know. I spent an hour apologizing, promising to fix whatever I could fix, feeling the weight of unintended consequences crushing down. Derek was gracious about it, more gracious than he should have been. He even tried to make me feel better. Said at least he got a week in a nice apartment. But I could see the damage. Another setback. Another reminder that the world was hard for people like him. Sarah drove us home. I slumped in the passenger seat, watching the city lights blur past. It was supposed to be harmless, I said quietly. I know. I just wanted them to see how it felt. To have something that's yours just taken away. I know, baby. Now Marcus is mad at me. Derek got traumatized again, and my family still wins. Sarah didn't answer because there was nothing to say. I'd tried to stand up to my family and ended up hurting the people who didn't deserve it. The people who were just trying to help me. We got home after 11. I sent Marcus a long text apologizing again. promising to cover any costs he incurred, asking how I could make it right. He didn't respond. I barely slept that night, and when I finally did drift off around 4 in the morning, I woke up 3 hours later to an email that made everything exponentially worse. The subject line read, "Legal notice of intent to sue." I read the email 3 times before my brain could process what I was seeing. The law firm's letterhead was formal, expensive looking. The language was dense, legal speak, but the core message was crystal clear. My parents were suing me for breach of family agreement and emotional distress caused to Brooke. They were demanding $40,000 in damages. Or alternatively, Brooke would be granted the right to live in my new apartment rent-free for 1 year. Sarah found me sitting at the kitchen table, still in my pajamas at noon, staring at my laptop screen. "Leif, are you okay?" I turned the laptop toward her. She read silently, her expression shifting from confusion to anger to disbelief. "This is insane. There was no family agreement. They announced something at dinner. You didn't agree to anything." "I know. They can't do this. Apparently they can try. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Spent $1,200 I didn't really have to spare on a 2-hour consultation with someone who specialized in family law. Her name was Patricia Chen, late 40s. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She read through the lawsuit paperwork I'd been officially served that morning, delivered by a process server who'd somehow found my new address. "This is mostly frivolous," Patricia said, flipping through pages. "Breach of family agreement requires an actual agreement, written or clearly established through pattern of behavior. Emotional distress requires proof of harm and usually intentional infliction. They're reaching. So I'll win? Eventually. But eventually means time and money. You're looking at $5,000 to $8,000 in legal fees to fight this properly, and the process could take 6 to 9 months if they drag it out. Which they probably will. $8,000. At minimum. If they really push. If they appeal. If they file additional motions. It could go higher." I felt sick. Even winning would cost me thousands. My family knew I couldn't afford a long legal battle. That was the point. Bleed me dry until I gave in. "There's something else," Patricia said, pulling out another document. "They've filed paperwork with the city listing your new apartment as Brooke's legal residence. It's not valid, obviously, but it's on record now. And they got your new address somehow." "How? Do you have any mutual contacts? Anyone who might have given it to them?" I thought about it. Sarah and I had been careful. We hadn't posted on social media. We'd only told close friends. "Unless, the property management company," I said, "from my old building. The manager is friends with my dad." Patricia made a note. "That might be a privacy violation we can pursue. But right now, let's focus on the immediate issue." She walked me through my options. Fight it in court, try to settle, or file a restraining order if the harassment escalated. I left her office feeling more defeated than when I arrived. This was supposed to be over. Instead, it was just beginning. When I got home, Sarah's car wasn't in the lot. Unusual. She'd said she was working from home today. I checked my phone. 1 missed call from her. No voicemail. I called back. It rang 5 times before she answered. "Hey, where are you?" "Downstairs. Can you come down? We need to talk." Those 4 words. We need to talk. Nothing good ever followed those 4 words. I found her in the lobby, sitting on one of the decorative benches near the mailboxes. She wasn't alone. Brooke sat there too, 2 designer suitcases beside her, eyes red and puffy. "What the hell?" I said. Sarah stood up quickly. "She was here when I got back from the store. She's been here for over an hour." Brooke looked up at me with those big eyes that had gotten her out of trouble her whole life. "Leif, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about everything. I just need somewhere to stay for a few weeks until I figure things out." "Absolutely not. I don't have anywhere else to go." "That's not my problem, Brooke. I'm your sister. You're my parents' weapon. There's a difference." A few residents passed through the lobby. An elderly woman with a small dog. A young couple holding hands. They all glanced at us. At Brooke's tears. At my rigid posture. I could see the judgment forming. Mean, older brother. Desperate younger sister. Brooke saw it too. She was playing to the audience. I know I've made mistakes, she said, voice breaking. I know I've taken advantage, but I'm trying to change. I just need one chance. Please, Leaf. I'm scared. I have nowhere to go. Your car is a BMW. You're wearing a Canada Goose jacket. Your suitcases are Louis Vuitton. You're not homeless, Brooke. You're manipulative. Sarah touched my arm. Let's go upstairs. But Brooke wasn't done. She stood up, moved closer. Close enough that when she spoke next, only I could hear her. If you don't let me stay, she whispered, smile playing at the edges of her crying face, I'll tell everyone you threatened me. At that dinner, I'll say you grabbed my arm, said you'd make me regret crossing you. I've already planted seeds with the building staff. Asked them if they'd seen any angry behavior from you. Told them I was scared. My blood went cold. You wouldn't. Try me. You think a lawsuit is bad? Wait until domestic violence accusations start floating around. True or not, that kind of thing sticks. Leaf. People believe women. Especially crying. Scared women with nowhere to go. I stared at my sister, this person I'd grown up with, shared a home with, and I didn't recognize her. There was something cruel and calculating behind those tears. Something that had always been there. Maybe. That I just never wanted to see. This building has cameras, I said. Cameras don't show what happened at Mom and Dad's house. And they don't show intent. They'll just show me. Upset and vulnerable. Being turned away by my angry brother. Sarah pulled me toward the elevator. Come on. Now. We rode up in silence. Inside the apartment, I paced while Sarah sat on the couch, processing. She's serious, Sarah said. About the accusations. I know. What are you going to do? I don't know. My phone buzzed. Email notification. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. The subject line. Career opportunity in Boston. I read it once, then handed the phone to Sarah. That's the position I applied for 4 months ago, she said slowly. I forgot I'd even applied. It's my dream job, Leaf. Senior design position at a firm I've wanted to work for since college. Boston. Yeah. Boston. When would you start? 3 weeks. If I accept. We looked at each other across the small living room of our new apartment. The one we'd just moved into together. The one we'd painted and arranged and made into our home. 3 weeks ago, this would have been cause for celebration. Now it felt like another thing crumbling. You should take it, I said. What about us? What about you? This is your career, Sarah. You can't pass this up because my family is insane. We just moved in together. I know. I love you. I love you too. But you love this job opportunity more. And you should. It's amazing. She started crying. Not Brooke's manipulative tears, but real, genuine grief. I don't want to leave you dealing with this alone. You're not leaving me. You're taking care of yourself. That's what healthy people do. We talked until 3 in the morning. Made lists, weighed options, cried some more. By the time the sun came up, the decision was made. Sarah would take the job. She'd go to Boston in 3 weeks. We'd try long distance for a while, see how it went. But we both knew. This was the beginning of the end for us. The next morning, I went to work exhausted, emotionally drained, barely functional. I'd worked at Techwell Solutions for 6 years, senior developer position, good salary, solid reputation. My boss, Christine, had always liked me. Reliable, she called me. The guy who got things done. I made it through 2 meetings and was halfway through debugging a critical issue when my desk phone rang. Internal extension. HR. Leif, this is Karen from Human Resources. Can you come down to conference room C? We need to speak with you about something. Is everything okay? Just come down, please. Christine was already in the conference room when I arrived. So was Paul from IT security, and 2 people from HR I didn't recognize. My stomach twisted. Leif, please sit down, Karen said. She was nervous. I could tell by how she kept rearranging papers in front of her. What's going on? We received an anonymous complaint through our ethics hotline yesterday evening, Paul said. He slid a printed email across the table. These are serious accusations. I read it, then read it again. Someone claiming to be a coworker had reported that I'd been embezzling company resources. Using company equipment for personal business, billing personal expenses to company accounts, running a side business on company time, even stealing proprietary code to sell to competitors. Every word was a lie. "This is completely false," I said. "I've never done any of this." "We have to investigate," Karen said. "It's company policy. Any ethics complaint requires a full review." "How long?" 2 to 3 weeks usually. "And in the meantime," Christine spoke up, her voice gentle but firm, "you're being placed on administrative leave, with pay. But you need to hand over your laptop and badge, and you can't access any company systems until the investigation is complete." "This is insane. Who sent this? Can I see the email address?" "It came through the anonymous hotline. There's no way to trace it. But I knew exactly who sent it." An hour later, I walked out of the building with a box of personal items from my desk, watched by coworkers who'd seen me escorted out by HR. The humiliation burned. My professional reputation, something I'd built carefully over 6 years, was now under suspicion. Even if the investigation cleared me, people would remember. They'd wonder. I sat in my car in the parking lot, hands shaking, and called my mother. She answered on the third ring. "Leaf, you did this." "I don't know what you're talking about." "My job. You reported me. Anonymously. That's quite an accusation. You're the only one who knows enough about what I do to make it sound believable. All those dinners where I talked about work, about projects, about my team. You were listening so you could use it against me." Silence. Then, "Maybe if you'd just helped your sister like family should, none of these unfortunate situations would be happening." She hung up. I drove home in a daze. Sarah wasn't there. She'd gone apartment hunting in Boston for the weekend, trying to find a place near her new job. I was alone. I opened my laptop to email Christine, to plead my case, to do something. Instead, I found myself scrolling through social media out of habit. That's when I saw Brooke's post. It was long, carefully crafted, with a photo of her looking vulnerable and sad. The text described an abusive older brother who'd always been jealous of her, who'd threatened her, who'd kicked her out onto the streets with nowhere to go. She painted herself as the victim of years of cruelty, me as a controlling monster. She mentioned the stranger in the apartment, implied he was dangerous, suggested I'd deliberately put her in harm's way. The post was public, tagged with our hometown, our mutual friends, old high school acquaintances, distant relatives. Within 3 hours, it had 200 shares and over 400 comments. People I'd known my entire life were calling me disgusting, heartless, a disgrace to my family. My phone started blowing up. Messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years. Some were concerned, asking if the story was true. Most were accusatory. How could I treat my own sister like that? What kind of person abandons family? I should be ashamed. I turned off my phone, closed the laptop, sat in the dark living room of my new apartment that was supposed to be my fresh start. Everything was falling apart. My job, my reputation, my relationship, my friendships. My family was systematically destroying every part of my life, and I had no idea how to make it stop. The next 3 days blurred together. I barely ate, barely slept. I'd lost 12 pounds since this whole nightmare started, my clothes hanging loose, dark circles carved under my eyes. Sarah called from Boston every night, worried, guilty about being away. But I could hear the excitement in her voice too when she talked about her new job, the apartment she'd found, the city she was already starting to love. She was moving forward. I was drowning. Marcus still wasn't returning my calls. Our friendship, built over a decade, damaged maybe beyond repair because I'd dragged his cousin into my family drama. Derek was probably dealing with his own trauma, probably wondering why he'd trusted anyone to give him a shot at normal life again. I spent hours staring at walls, replaying every decision, every moment where I could have done something different. Maybe I should have just let Brooke move in. Maybe I should have been the doormat everyone expected me to be. Maybe fighting back was never worth it. On the 4th day, I forced myself to shower, to eat something, to at least pretend at being functional. I couldn't work because of the suspension, but I could sort through the lawsuit papers again. Maybe I'd missed something. Maybe there was a way out I hadn't seen. I spread everything across the kitchen table. The lawsuit, the ethics complaint, printout, Patricia's notes from our meeting, my bank statements showing the drain on my savings. My phone buzzed with another hateful message from someone I'd gone to high school with. I turned it off again. That's when I noticed something in the lawsuit paperwork. Patricia had mentioned family agreement, said there needed to be proof of established pattern or written contract. But the lawsuit referenced specific dates, specific conversations, things I didn't remember agreeing to. I opened my laptop and started searching through old emails. My parents were terrible with technology, but they used email. Maybe there was something there, some thread I could follow. 3 hours later, I'd found nothing useful. Just years of surface-level communication. Birthday wishes, holiday plans, the occasional forwarded chain email my mother thought was funny. Then I remembered the iPad. Last Christmas, I'd given my parents a tablet. Set it up for them, linked it to their accounts, showed them how to use it for video calls and email. My mother loved it, used it constantly to read recipes and watch videos. And because I'd set it up, I knew the password. More importantly, I knew their email was still logged in unless they'd changed something. It was a long shot, probably a violation of privacy, definitely ethically questionable. But I was suspended from work over false accusations, being sued by my own parents, and watching my entire life collapse. Ethics felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. I logged into their iCloud account remotely. The email loaded. Hundreds of messages. I started searching for Brooke's name, filtering by date, looking for anything from the past 6 months. What I found made me physically ill. The first email was from 8 months ago. Brooke to my mother. Subject line just a sad face emoji. Mom, they fired me again. Said I was stealing from the register, but it was only $40 and I was going to pay it back. Can you talk to them? Offer them money to not press charges? My mother's response. How much? 500 should do it. Done. But this is the last time, Brooke. Your father is getting suspicious about where all this money is going. I scrolled further. 6 months ago, different email chain. Brooke. The boutique let me go. Something about inventory not matching up and they found some stuff in my car. But I was just borrowing it, I was going to bring it back. They're threatening legal action. Mom. How much this time? 1,200. Brooke. This is getting out of hand. Please, Mom. I can't have another theft charge. Please. Another chain from 5 months ago made me set down my coffee mug with shaking hands. Brooke. I need to talk to you about something. Don't tell Dad. Mom. What now? I've been using again. The pills. I know I promised after rehab, but things have been hard. I need to go back. To a facility. But the good one is expensive. Mom. Oh, Brooke. Not again. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I need help. The emails that followed showed my mother arranging treatment, negotiating with facilities, paying deposits. $18,000 for a 30-day program. Then, 2 months later, Brooke had left early. Against medical advice. The facility wouldn't refund the money. 3 months ago, another attempt. Different facility. $22,000. Brooke lasted 10 days. I kept reading, going deeper into the inbox. My parents' financial situation wasn't just strained, it was catastrophic. They'd spent over $70,000 in the past 2 years, covering Brooke's mistakes, her rehab attempts, her theft settlements, her unemployment gaps. They'd taken out a second mortgage on their house. They'd emptied their retirement savings. And then I found the email that changed everything. 2 weeks before that Sunday dinner, Brooke to my mother. Mom, I can't live here anymore. You and Dad are always on me about getting a job, about staying clean, about doing better. I need space. I need to be on my own somewhere. What about Leaf's apartment? He's doing well. He can afford to help me out. Just for a few months until I get back on my feet. My mother's response. He'll never agree to it. You know how he is about boundaries. Brooke. So don't ask him. Tell him. Make it a family decision. He's too nice to fight back. He never does. Remember the car? The college money? The jewelry? We can push him into anything if we push hard enough. He'll cave like he always does. My mother. You're right. Your brother has always been a doormat. This will work. I'll talk to your father. I read those words 5 times. Doormat. That's what they thought of me. That's what I was to them. Not a son, not a brother. Just someone to use when convenient. But there was more. I kept scrolling. And what I found next made my entire body go cold. An email from my mother to my father, marked urgent, from 3 years ago. Subject line: Leaf's credit. I found that old credit card application he left here when he moved out. The one from when he was 19, before he knew to check these things. I activated it under his name. We can use it for Brooks' expenses, pay the minimums from our account so he doesn't notice. Just until we get back on our feet financially. My father's response: Are you sure about this? That's fraud. He won't know unless we stop paying. And we won't stop paying. It's just temporary. He'd want to help his sister if he knew how bad things were. I pulled up my credit report. Something I should have done years ago but never thought to check because I'd always been responsible, always paid my bills. And there it was. A credit card in my name with a balance of $23,417. Opened 5 years ago when I was 19 years old, living in a dorm, working part-time. No idea this existed. Every month for 5 years, minimum payments had been made from my parents' bank account. Enough to keep it from defaulting, not enough to actually pay it down. The interest had been accumulating, but now, according to the most recent statement I could access, payments had been missed, 3 months in a row. My credit score had dropped 140 points. If they stopped paying entirely, it would default. Collection agencies would come after me. My ability to get loans, rent apartments, even get certain jobs would be destroyed. And it was my name on the account. Legally, I was responsible. That was identity theft. That was fraud. That was a crime. I sat back in my chair, the weight of it all pressing down. My own parents had committed fraud against me, had stolen my identity to fund Brooks' disasters, had been lying for years, and now they were suing me, threatening me, destroying my reputation and my career, all because I wouldn't let them continue using me. The rage that washed over me was unlike anything I'd ever felt, hot and sharp and crystallizing. This wasn't just favoritism or bad parenting. This was systematic abuse, financial exploitation, criminal behavior. I screenshot everything. Every email, every admission, every detail of the credit card fraud. I backed it up to 3 different cloud services, printed physical copies, built a file of evidence that was absolutely damning. Then I sat in my quiet apartment and cried, not sad tears, angry tears. Because even with all this proof, even with everything they'd done, they were still my parents. Turning them in meant possibly sending them to jail. It meant destroying what was left of my family. It meant becoming the villain in everyone else's story. But doing nothing meant letting them destroy me instead. My phone rang. I'd turned it back on to access the emails. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. "Hey," I answered. Voice rough. "Leif. Oh my God. I've been trying to reach you for hours. Are you okay?" "No. But I found something. Evidence. Of everything," I told her. All of it. The emails, the theft settlements, the rehab payments, the credit card fraud. She listened in stunned silence. "Leif, that's identity theft. That's serious." "I know. You have to report it. They're my parents. They've been stealing from you for years. They've been using you. And now they're trying to destroy your life because you finally stood up for yourself." She was right. I knew she was right. "What are you going to do?" Sarah asked. "I don't know yet, but I'm done being a doormat." I didn't sleep that night. Just sat at my kitchen table with printed copies of every email, every statement, every piece of evidence spread out in front of me like pieces of a puzzle I'd finally figured out how to solve. At 6 in the morning, I called Patricia, my lawyer. She agreed to see me immediately. Her office smelled like coffee and leather when I arrived at 8. I handed her the file I'd compiled. She started reading, her professional composure slipping with each page. "This is extensive," she said after 20 minutes of silence. "The identity theft alone is a federal crime. The fact that they've been using your credit for 5 years makes it worse. And these emails, the admissions about your sister's theft history, the rehab costs, all of it establishes pattern and motive for why they're trying to force you into supporting her now. What are my options? Patricia set down the papers and looked at me directly. Option 1. You file a police report. With this evidence, they'd likely be arrested. Your mother for identity theft and fraud, possibly your father as an accessory. The lawsuit against you would collapse immediately. You'd recover your financial losses eventually, though it would take time. But Leaf, you need to understand what that means. Criminal charges. Possible jail time for your parents. Your family would never recover from it. What's option 2? You use this as leverage. Draft a detailed message with my help. Make clear demands, backed by consequences. Drop the lawsuit, correct the credit card situation, make restitution, and establish boundaries, or you prosecute. Give them a choice. Will that work? Depends on how desperate they are. From these emails, they're in serious financial trouble. They might not be able to meet all your demands even if they want to, but it gives you control of the situation. And option 3? There is no option 3. You can't just ignore this. That credit card will default if they stop paying, and your credit will be ruined. The lawsuit will continue draining your resources. Your job situation, your reputation, everything they're attacking. It'll keep getting worse unless you act. I chose option 2. Patricia helped me draft an email that was clear, firm, and backed by undeniable evidence. I listed my demands. 1. The lawsuit against me gets dropped immediately, with signed documentation that it was filed in error. 2. Brooke removes all social media posts about me and issues a public correction and apology, or I release evidence of her theft history and failed rehab attempts. I wasn't trying to destroy her, but I wouldn't let her destroy me either. 3. My parents transfer the fraudulent credit card entirely into their names through legal channels and begin paying it down. I wanted documentation from the credit card company that I was not responsible for this debt. 4. They pay me back the $23,417 they'd stolen through that card, on a payment plan of $200 monthly for 10 years. If they missed a payment, I'd file criminal charges. 5. We all attend family therapy with a licensed professional, paid for by them, or I cut contact permanently. 6. If they contacted my employer, my landlord, my friends, or harassed me in any way going forward, I'd file both civil and criminal charges immediately. I attached copies of the most damning emails as proof I wasn't bluffing. Then I sent it to my parents in Brooke, CCing Patricia. My finger hovered over the send button for a long moment. This would detonate whatever was left of my family. But that family had been a lie anyway. I clicked send. The response came faster than I expected. My father called within 40 minutes. I let it go to voicemail the first time. He called again, and again. The fourth time, I answered. Leif. His voice was shaking. Not with anger, with fear. We need to talk. Can I come over? No. Please, son. This has gone too far. I didn't know. About the credit card, I swear I didn't know. Your mother told me it was an authorized user account, that you'd agreed to help. I never looked at the paperwork. That's not an excuse, Dad. I know. But please, let me come talk to you face to face. Something in his voice made me pause. This wasn't the controlled, distant father who'd sat at that dinner table and nodded while my mother announced my apartment would go to Brooke. This was someone broken. 1 hour. You come alone. Not Mom, not Brooke. Just you. He arrived in 50 minutes, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 2 weeks. His hair, always carefully combed, was messy. His shirt was wrinkled. He had the appearance of a man who hadn't slept. We sat in my living room. He didn't try to hug me, just sat on the couch, hands clasped between his knees, and started talking. Your mother and I got married young, 22 years old, both of us. I worked, she stayed home with you kids. Traditional setup. Over the years, I let her handle all the household stuff. The bills, the finances, the child rearing. I focused on my career. I wasn't absent, but I wasn't present either. Not really. Dad, let me finish. Please. When Brooke started having problems, your mother told me it was normal teenage stuff. Growing pains. I believed her because I wanted to. Because dealing with it meant admitting we'd failed as parents somehow. So I wrote checks when she asked. Didn't question why Brooke needed money so often. Told myself she was just finding her way. He looked up at me, eyes red. I didn't know about most of what you found in those emails. I didn't know about the theft settlements, the multiple rehabs, the extent of her drug problem. Your mother hid it from me. She said she was protecting the family, that if I knew how bad things were, I'd make Brooke leave, and she couldn't bear to lose her baby girl. What about me? Did either of you ever think about what you were doing to me? Yes. No. I don't know, Leaf. Your mother kept saying you were strong, that you didn't need us the way Brooke did, and I believed her because it was easier than confronting the truth. The truth that we'd created a monster out of your sister by never making her face consequences, and that we'd sacrificed you in the process. Silence filled the room. I wanted to stay angry, but I could see genuine remorse in my father's face. Maybe too late, maybe not enough, but it was real. I found out about the credit card 2 days ago, he continued. When you sent that email, I confronted your mother. Really confronted her. For maybe the first time in our marriage. She broke down. Admitted everything. The card, the lies, all of it. We've been drowning financially for 2 years, and instead of telling me, she just kept digging deeper. Where's Mom now? At home. Furious. At me for being here. At you for fighting back. At the world for not giving Brooke endless chances. She's not ready to accept responsibility yet. I don't know if she ever will be. And Brooke? My father's face hardened slightly. Living in our basement, high as a kite on something. I don't even know what anymore. She's been stealing pain pills from your mother's prescription. Your mother caught her yesterday and they had a massive fight. That's when everything came out. All the lies, all the years of enabling. He reached into his pocket and pulled out folded papers. I already signed these. It's documentation dropping the lawsuit, admitting it was filed without merit. I'll handle getting Brooke to take down the social media posts. And I've started the process of transferring that credit card debt. It'll take a few weeks, but it'll be entirely in our names, legally cleared from you. I took the papers, scanned them. They looked legitimate. The monthly payments, my father continued, $200 for 10 years. We'll do it. I've already set up an automatic transfer to your account. Starts next month. If we miss one, you file charges. I understand. We deserve that. What about therapy? I'll go. I want to go. I need help understanding how I let this happen. But your mother won't. I can't force her. And Brooke needs more than family therapy. She needs intensive treatment. Real treatment. Long term. I'm looking into programs now. We talked for another hour. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was a start. A tiny crack in the wall of dysfunction that had been my family for as long as I could remember. My father left with a promise to call me next week, to start the therapy process, to keep me updated on Brooke's situation. I watched him drive away and felt something shift inside me. Not relief exactly. More like the first full breath after being underwater too long. My phone rang 10 minutes later. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to the message. Her voice was ice cold. You've destroyed this family, Leif. Turned your father against me, made your sister's problems public, ruined everything we tried to build. I hope you're happy. I hope when you're alone, when that girlfriend leaves you, when you have no one, you remember this moment. Remember that you chose your pride over your family. Don't expect me to be there when your life falls apart. She hung up. I deleted the message. I didn't need that poison in my phone or my head. That afternoon, Christine from work called. Leif, I have good news. The investigation concluded. They found nothing. No evidence of any wrongdoing. No suggestion that the anonymous complaint had any merit whatsoever. We've determined it was a malicious attack from outside the company. So I'm cleared? Completely. We'd like you back in the office Monday. And Leif, I want to apologize personally for what you went through. This should have been handled with more discretion. Thank you, Christine. There's more. Because of the false accusation and the impact on your reputation, HR is offering you a formal promotion. Senior Technical Architect, 15% raise, better benefits. It's a position we were going to post externally, but after reviewing your actual work history during the investigation, we all agreed you've more than earned it. I almost dropped the phone. A promotion. Out of the ashes of the worst weeks of my life, something good was emerging. I don't know what to say. Say yes. We need good people, Leaf. And you're one of the best. After we hung up, I sat there feeling like maybe, possibly, things were starting to turn around. Then my phone buzzed again. Marcus. Hey, his text read. Can we talk? I owe you an apology. We met for coffee that evening. Derek came too. They sat across from me at a small table in a busy downtown cafe, both looking uncomfortable. I was angry. Marcus started. The situation with the police, the building management threatening my business. It all felt like too much. And I took it out on you. But Derek and I have been talking. And man, I'm sorry. Your family really did a number on you. On all of us. Derek nodded. That night was rough. Seeing the cops, getting detained, it brought back everything I've been trying to move past. But my therapist, she helped me see it different. Sometimes traumatic situations force you to deal with stuff you've been avoiding. I've been coasting, telling myself I'm fine, I'm over it, but I'm not. That panic I felt when the police came, that wasn't about you or your family. That was about me not processing my time inside. I'm in therapy now, Derek continued. Real therapy. 3 times a week. Working through the PTSD, the fear, all of it. And yeah, that night sucked. But it pushed me to finally get help I needed. So in a weird way, I'm grateful. Marcus smiled slightly. The building management situation worked out too. I met with them, showed them all the documentation, explained that we were caught in the middle of someone else's family drama. They backed off the blacklist threat. We're good. I'm sorry I dragged you both into this, I said. You didn't drag us, Marcus said. We helped because we wanted to, because that's what friends do. And I should have remembered that instead of ghosting you when things got messy. We spent the next 2 hours just talking, catching up, sharing stories, rebuilding the friendship that had been damaged. By the time we left, it felt like the worst was finally behind us. I drove home as the sun set, painting the sky orange and pink. Sarah called from Boston. How are you doing? She asked. Better. A lot better, actually. I told her about my father's visit, the lawsuit being dropped, the promotion at work, reconnecting with Marcus and Derek. She listened, and I could hear the relief in her voice. I'm so glad, Leaf. You deserve good things. You deserve peace. How's Boston? It's good. Really good. The job is amazing. The city is beautiful. I found a great apartment. That's wonderful. Silence stretched between us, comfortable but sad. We both knew what came next. Leif, I think we need to talk. About us. I know. I love you. I really do. But this distance, and everything you're going through, and my new life here, it's not fair to either of us to pretend we can make this work. I was thinking the same thing. Yeah? Yeah. You're building something important there. And I'm rebuilding here. We're growing, just in different directions. So this is it? I think so. But Sarah, I'm grateful for everything. You stuck by me through the worst of this. You supported me when I felt like I was drowning. I'll never forget that. Me neither. You're going to be okay, Leif. You're one of the strongest people I know. We said goodbye. It hurt, but it was the right kind of hurt. The kind that means something mattered enough to grieve its ending. I got home, walked into my apartment, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Really breathe. The lawsuit was over. My job was secure, actually better than before. My family situation was damaged, but not beyond all repair. My friendships were mending, and I'd stood up for myself. Finally, after a lifetime of being the doormat, I'd drawn lines and defended them. It cost me. Cost me a relationship, peace of mind, money, sleep. But it gave me something more valuable. My self-respect. 3 months passed like a slow exhale. The world didn't magically fix itself, but piece by piece, things found their equilibrium. The payments from my parents started arriving like clockwork. $200 on the first of every month, transferred automatically. I watched the balance owed tick down slowly. It would take 10 years to recover what they'd stolen. But at least it was happening. My credit score began to climb as the fraudulent card was officially transferred out of my name. The credit bureau investigation took 6 weeks of paperwork and phone calls. But eventually my report showed what it should have all along. Responsible, timely payments, good history. The damage wasn't completely erased, but it was repairable now. Work became a refuge again. The promotion came with new challenges, interesting projects, a team of developers who actually respected my input. Christine continued checking in occasionally, not in a managing way, but in a mentorship way. She'd been through family financial abuse herself 10 years earlier with her sister. She understood in a way most people couldn't. Sometimes we'd grab coffee and she'd share what she'd learned, how she'd healed. It helped more than I could express. Marcus and I fell back into our old rhythm. We met up twice a month, sometimes with Derek, sometimes just the two of us. His IT business was thriving. He'd landed 3 major corporate clients and was looking to hire. He offered me consulting work on the side, flexible hours, good pay. I accepted. The extra income helped rebuild the savings I'd burned through during the crisis. Derek was doing well, really well. He'd completed 4 months of intensive therapy, was still going twice a week. His construction job had promoted him to foreman. He'd saved enough to rent his own studio apartment, modest but clean and his. We'd gotten coffee last week and he'd told me something I'd never forget. That night with the police, he'd said. It broke me open in a way I needed. I'd been pretending I was fine. That prison didn't leave marks. But it did. Deep ones. Getting detained, feeling that panic. It showed me I wasn't healed. And that night led me to real help. So yeah, it sucked. But it saved me too. The family therapy sessions were complicated. My father attended every week, committed, doing the work. He was learning to set boundaries with my mother, to question instead of just accept, to be a partner instead of a passenger in his own life. It was hard to watch him realize how much time he'd lost, how many opportunities to intervene he'd missed. But he was trying. My mother refused to come. She sent angry texts sometimes, blaming me for destroying the family, for turning her husband against her, for abandoning Brooke. I'd learned to delete them without reading past the first line. Her poison couldn't hurt me anymore. Brooke was in rehab. Her 3rd attempt. But this time it was different. This was a 9-month residential program that didn't allow early departures. My father had sold their boat and dipped into his retirement to pay for it. 6 weeks in, Brooke had sent me a letter as part of her recovery process. The letter was 3 pages long, handwritten, tear-stained in places. She apologized for everything. The manipulation, the social media lies, the lawsuit, the years of taking advantage. She didn't make excuses, just acknowledged the truth. She explained that the pills had made her someone she barely recognized, that our parents' enabling had taught her she could do anything without consequences, that she'd been jealous of me her whole life. You always had your life together, she'd written. While I was a mess, I wanted to tear you down because I couldn't build myself up. I wanted you to hurt like I was hurting. I'm so sorry, Leaf. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I see it now. I see what I did, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better. I'd read that letter 10 times. I wasn't ready to forgive her completely. Trust took time to rebuild, and she destroyed mine thoroughly. But I appreciated the honesty. It was more than my mother had ever offered. 2.5 months in, Brooke was allowed supervised visits outside the facility. My father arranged for her to come to my apartment, said it was important for her recovery to face the people she'd hurt. I'd agreed. Cautiously. She looked different when she arrived. Healthier, no makeup, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans and a plain shirt, no designer labels, no flash. My parents waited in their car downstairs, giving us privacy. We sat in my living room, an awkward silence between us. "Thank you for letting me come," Brooke said quietly. "Dad said it was important for your program." "It is. But I wanted to see you too. To apologize in person, not just in a letter." "I got your letter. I meant every word. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I meant it. We talked for an hour. She told me about the program, about the intensive therapy, about finally confronting why she'd spent her whole life running from responsibility. She admitted she'd been using pills since she was 17, that our parents had found out when she was 19, and instead of making her get help then, they'd paid off the doctor who'd been overprescribing and swept it under the rug. By 22, she was addicted. By 24, she was stealing to support the habit. I was so jealous of you, she said. You worked hard, paid your own way, never asked for anything. And I resented you for it because it made me look worse by comparison. So I tried to take what you had, not just things, but dignity. I wanted you to feel as small as I felt. Why? Because hurting you made me feel powerful. When everything else in my life was out of control, I could at least control you. Make you cave. Make you give in. It was sick. I was sick. Before she left, she looked at me with clear eyes. You were always the strong one, Leaf. I was jealous my whole life. I wanted to tear you down because I couldn't build myself up. I watched her walk back to our parents' car. I didn't know if she'd stay clean this time. Statistics weren't encouraging for people with her history. But at least she was trying. At least she'd admitted the truth. Sarah came back for a visit in late October. We met for dinner at a restaurant neither of us had been to before. Neutral territory. She looked good, happy, settled in her new life. She told me about her job, her apartment, the friends she'd made in Boston. I told her about the promotion, the consulting work, the slow mending of family relationships. I'm glad you're doing well, she said, smiling across the table. You too. Boston suits you. It does. But I miss this place sometimes. Miss you. I miss you too. But we made the right choice. I know. We finished dinner and hugged goodbye in the parking lot. It was closure. Real, healthy closure. Some relationships are meant for a season, to help you through a particular chapter. Sarah had been there when I needed someone to see me, to support me, to remind me I wasn't crazy. Now we were both moving forward, separately, better for having known each other. I drove home through familiar streets, pulled into my parking spot, rode the elevator up to my apartment, my space, my rules. No one trying to take it, no one trying to control it, just mine. I stood at the window looking out over the city at night, coffee in hand, thinking about the past few months. The war my family had waged against me when I'd refused to be used anymore. The cost of standing up for myself. The relationships lost and gained. The person I'd become through the fire. I'd spent 28 years being the easy one, the responsible one, the one who didn't make waves. I'd thought that made me good, strong, mature. But really, it just made me available to be exploited. I'd been so afraid of conflict, so desperate to be loved by people who only valued what I could provide, that I'd lost myself in the process. Setting boundaries didn't make me cruel. Protecting myself didn't make me selfish. And walking away from people who hurt me, even family, didn't make me a bad person. Family is supposed to be about love, support, lifting each other up. When it becomes about control, manipulation, taking advantage, it's not family anymore. It's just people who share your DNA using that connection as a weapon. I hadn't wanted to fight. I'd wanted to teach a small lesson with what I thought was a harmless prank. But they'd escalated. They'd tried to destroy my life because I wouldn't let them control me anymore. And in doing so, they'd taught me the real lesson. Some people will only respect you when you force them to face consequences. I wasn't happy about how it all went down. I didn't want it to get that ugly, that painful. But I was glad I didn't cave. Glad I fought back. Glad I learned that my worth wasn't determined by how much I sacrificed for people who didn't appreciate it. You can't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Eventually, there's nothing left of you but ashes. I'd come close to that point. So close I could feel the heat, but I'd stepped back from the flames. Chose myself. Finally, after all those years, the therapy helped me process it all. My therapist, Dr. Angela Miller, had a quote on her wall that stuck with me. Being kind to yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. For someone who'd spent his whole life putting everyone else first, that was revolutionary. Looking at my reflection in the window glass, I barely recognized the person staring back. Leaner, harder around the edges, but stronger, more certain, more himself. My phone buzzed. A text from my father. "Coffee next week? Wednesday at 10?" I replied, "Sounds good. See you then." Baby steps. That's all any of this was. Baby steps toward healthier relationships, clearer boundaries, authentic connections built on honesty instead of obligation. It wouldn't be perfect. My mother might never come around. Brooke might relapse. My father might backslide. But at least now we were all dealing with truth instead of pretending dysfunction was normal. I finished my coffee, rinsed the mug, and got ready for bed. Tomorrow was Monday. Back to work. Back to the new project Christine had assigned me. Back to building the life I wanted, instead of the life everyone else expected me to live. For the first time in my entire life, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight, just my own. And it felt lighter than I ever imagined possible. Here's what I learned through all of this. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love you the most will hurt you the deepest. Sometimes family is the last place you find safety. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who only want you around when you're useful. But here's what else I learned. You're stronger than you think. You can rebuild after everything falls apart. You can find new family and friends who choose to stand by you. And you can forgive yourself for not seeing the dysfunction sooner, because survival sometimes means not looking too closely at what would break you if you did. I used to think being strong meant enduring everything without complaining. Now I know being strong means knowing when to say enough, when to fight back, when to choose yourself even when everyone calls you selfish for doing it. My name is Leif. I'm 30 years old, and this is the story of how I stopped being a doormat and started being a person. It cost me more than I wanted to pay, but it gave me something priceless, the ability to look at myself in the mirror and respect who I see. If you're in a situation like mine, where family or people close to you treat you like a resource instead of a person, where boundaries are punished and standing up for yourself is labeled as betrayal, I want you to know something. You're not wrong for wanting better. You're not selfish for protecting yourself. And you're not alone. It's scary to fight back against people who've controlled you your whole life. It's terrifying to risk losing everyone and everything. But you know what's scarier? Waking up at 40, 50, 60 years old and realizing you spent your entire life serving people who never valued you. That's the real tragedy. So set your boundaries. Stand your ground. Choose yourself. Not in a selfish, narcissistic way, but in a healthy, necessary way. Because you deserve to take up space in your own life. You deserve relationships built on mutual respect, not one-sided sacrifice. And you deserve peace. The road isn't easy. There will be times you doubt yourself, times you wonder if you did the right thing. But on the other side of that, fear is freedom. Real freedom. The kind where you wake up, and the first thought isn't about what someone else needs from you, but about what you want for yourself. That's worth fighting for. So I'm standing at my window tonight, looking out over a city full of people fighting their own battles. And I'm grateful. Grateful for the hard lessons. Grateful for the people who stayed when things got ugly. Grateful for second chances and fresh starts. Grateful to finally be free. And if you're reading this, or listening to this, wondering if you can do it too, wondering if it's possible to break free from toxic family patterns and build something better, the answer is yes. Absolutely yes. It's possible. It's hard, but it's possible. And you're worth the effort. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who didn't respect you? Have you been in a situation where standing up for yourself cost you relationships? How did you handle it? What did you learn? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this story resonated with you, if it helped you feel less alone or gave you courage to face your own situation, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories, and share this with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need a reminder that choosing ourselves isn't selfish, it's survival. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope wherever you are, whatever you're facing, you find the strength to choose yourself, to set boundaries, to demand respect, and to build a life that's authentically yours. Take care of yourselves out there. You're worth it. I promise you're worth it.